Another longtime Peters Creek family is that of Ed and Rusty Bellringer. They met as flight instructors at a local Orange County airfield in California. The two soon found that they had lots to talk about and quite a lot in common, especially since Rusty had served in the Marine Corps during World War II as an aircraft mechanic. Now that was quite an accomplishment back then. It wasn't long before the two decided to marry. In 1951, a year after their marriage, the Air Force transferred Ed to Elmendorf Air Force Base just outside of Anchorage. They bundled their belongings into a brand new Mercury sedan, rigged up a small trailer to tow behind it, and headed up the Alcan in the spring of '51. Those who ever traveled the Alcan during spring breakup in the early days can attest that the trek was quite a challenge in itself. Each night they pitched their tent alongside the road and settled back to enjoy the stars. One night they experienced a sight to behold. The sky was lit up with pulsating colored lights. They were baffled for a while about this extraordinary phenomenon, since the only thing that came to their minds was the light shows that they would often experience in California when the big lights of Hollywood would fan the sky. Over the years, the aurora borealis would become a feature of their lives, and they would observe them often with a faint humorous memory of the wonderment of their first experience. Upon arriving in Anchorage, they decided to settle in the Peters Creek area. Initially, they rented a cabin from Bob Stewart, later moving to a cabin which they rented from Leo Robinson. When Bob decided to subdivide and sell some of his land, Ed and Rusty bought a 2.5-acre parcel from him. They began building a log home and moved in November of 1951. Rusty insists that it took twice as long to finish as it should have. Finally, one day, in exasperation, she said to Ed, "You don't have to be such a perfectionist, Ed. After all, it doesn't have to fly." Although Ed knew nothing about house building, he read, researched, and questioned enough people to finally construct a cozy home for their growing family. Rusty worked on Elmendorf in warehouse supply and found it very convenient to commute to work with Ed. She quit her job there when oldest daughter Maxine was born in 1954. When Marjorie and Barbara soon followed, Rusty was kept busy running a household and raising children. This often included Ted, Ed's son from his first marriage. Ed diligently performed his job for the Alaska Air Command as a wildlife conservation officer. It was his job to guide all dignitaries from the lower 48 on aerial tours of the state. This job was often right up his alley, as he loved to hunt and fish and often got paid to do it. In a less official capacity, Ed served as a recorder for Boone and Crockett. He measured all record-size horns, antlers, etc., and logged them with Boone and Crockett. Throughout the 1970s, he was a part of the Joint Fish and Wildlife Advisory Team on the pipeline. This team was responsible for overseeing efforts to record and minimize pipeline impact on Alaskan wildlife. In addition to this work, he also became a biologist consultant for Alaska Fish and Game. Needless to say, Ed's work demanded that he spend much of his time in the air. As if flying for a living wasn't enough, he also owned his own aircraft and could often be found tinkering in his shop on an airplane he was restoring or improving. If you found him in his shop and he wasn't working on aircraft, he would no doubt be working on a Volvo. Ed was one of Volvo's biggest fans, and the family owned many of them throughout the years. He would often find one that didn't run and restore it. Just as often, he kept an old one running well past its prime. One of the hobbies that Ed enjoyed was also linked to his line of work. Ed enjoyed skydiving and indulged his hobbies throughout his entire life. Though most of us think of skydiving as a sport for the young and bold, Ed dived well into his 70s. Ed was a member of the Civil Air Patrol, the Masons, and the Early Birdmen, a fraternity for bush pilots. While Ed was flying the skies of Alaska, Rusty devoted herself to being the voice of Chugiak-Eagle River with the weekly hometown newspaper she called the Knik Arm Courier. She claims that Marie McDowell was responsible for getting her started. Knowing that Rusty had some experience with graphics, Marie approached her with the idea of helping get a newspaper started in 1958, and the Courier was born. Although the McDowells moved to Homer soon afterward, Rusty kept the paper going for 16 years. She claims that she never missed getting an issue out from 1958 to 1973, even amidst having babies and experiencing major earthquakes. Rusty wore many hats during those years. She became reporter, ad woman, graphic artist, and typesetter, as well as the circulation department and delivery woman. She even included a comic strip of her own design in each weekly newspaper. Countless Tuesday nights without sleep preceded those Wednesday editions of the Knik Arm Courier. All this at the cost of 10 cents a paper. As if raising the three girls, keeping abreast of Ed's comings and goings, and publishing a local newspaper wasn't enough, Rusty, in addition to reporting local events and activities, participated in many of them. She was one of the original Chugiak Belles and a charter member of the Chugiak Ladies Club. She was a sponsor of the Chubergelstead Winterfest each year, providing ribbons and trophies for the local youngsters. She sponsored local baseball and softball teams in the same manner. Her girls were involved in local Girl Scout activities, and Rusty volunteered to help with the troops whenever needed. She and Ed were actively involved in Operation Chugiak High School, and Ed flew reconnaissance over the area in search of a potential site for the high school. Rusty was a charter member of the Chamber of Commerce and submitted the original design of the Bear Paw Award, which is still used today. Rusty retired the newspaper in 1973 so she and Ed could begin to travel and enjoy a more relaxed pace. They made trips to Japan, the Philippines, Taiwan, and Thailand. However, the retired life apparently didn't suit Rusty, and she began to attend college classes at the University of Alaska Anchorage. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in 1978. She then went on to receive her master's degree and a PhD in psychology. She worked as a counselor at Catholic Social Services through the 1980s. Ed died of heart failure in 1993 at the age of 83, and Rusty continues to reside in the log home that she and Ed built together. Although Rusty has any number of accomplishments to be proud of, one that she is most pleased to reveal is the fact that every single member of her family all became pilots. Even some of the in-laws and grandchildren fly. I guess the old cliche, "it's in the blood," is true within the Bellringer family when it comes to being in the air. Ted and Marjorie live out of state, while Maxine and Barbara still reside in Alaska. Ed and Rusty Bellringer have certainly added color and culture to our community over the years, and it is with fond remembrance and recognition that we salute them today.